Hello, today I'm going to be covering section 3.3, multiplication and division of decimals. I'm going to start out with multiplication. Now consider 2.5 times 4.1. When you're multiplying decimals, you multiply just as if you would multiply them as they were integers or whole numbers even. And then at the end, you have to have the same number of decimal places as the total number of decimal places in your factors. So I'm just going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to multiply this as if it was just 25 times 41. So 1 times 5, 5. 1 times 2, 2. Then I put a placeholder 0. 4 times 5, 20. Carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 2 is 10. Add it together, 5, 2, 0, 1. Now, if I look at my factors, I had 1 decimal place here and 1 decimal place there, giving me a total of 2 decimal places. So my answer should have 2 decimal places. So 1, 2. So that's the difference between addition, subtraction, and multiplication. You don't line up decimal places, you have the same number of decimal places. Now on to example 1, multiply. 52 times negative 1.2. When I'm multiplying, I do like to have them vertically, so I'm going to rewrite it. 52 times negative 1.2. Now I'm going to think of my multiplication rules. A positive times a negative gives me a negative. So since my answer is going to be negative, I'm just going to write it down now so I don't forget. Actually down here. Now, 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 5 is 10. 1 times 2 is 2. Oh, I forgot to put my placeholder 0. And then 1 times 5 is 5. Add them up. 4, 2, 6. Now, how many decimal places do we have there? 0, 1. So 0 plus 1 is 1. So I have 1 total decimal places. So the answer is negative 62 and 4/10. Now on to part B. We have negative 18.1 times negative 0.1. First off, I am going to write it vertically. Now we have a negative times a negative, so my final answer is going to be a positive, so I don't have to worry about putting a sign down. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 1 is 1. And again, it's positive. Now there is no other number because 0 doesn't count. So I have 1 decimal place, 1 decimal place, so a total of 2. 1, 2. So the answer is 1 and 81 hundredths. Now on to part C. 12.6 times 0.82. So again, just multiply as normal. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times, oh, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4. Plus 1 is 5. And 2 times 1 is 2. Placeholder 0 for multiplication. 8 times 6 is 48. Carry the 4. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20. Carry the 2. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 2 is 10. Add them together. 2. 5 plus 8 is 13. Carry the 1. 3, 0, 1. Now I have 1 decimal place, 2 decimal place, for a total of 3. So 1, 2, 3. So 10 and 332 thousandths is the final answer. Now on to division. Division does have some slightly different rules. Now, you look at the divisor first, or the number you're dividing by, the number on the outside, or the number below the fraction bar, or wherever the divisor is, wherever you're dividing by. And you have to move the decimal place until that number is a whole number. So here, the decimal this is a decimal, so I do have to move it 2 places, because now it's just 4, which is a whole number. But however many places you move it on the divisor, you have to move it the same number on the dividend, or the number on the inside. Well, the decimal is assumed to be here, so I have to move it 1, 2. I'm going to extend my division bar. And because I did move it 2 decimal places, you do have to put zeros. Then with division, all that happens with this decimal place is it goes straight up here, and that's where it's going to be in our number. Then you divide as normal. So 4, does it go into 2? No. 4 does not go into 2, so I go on to 20. Does 4 go into 20? Yes. 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 minus 20 is 0. Does 4 go into 0? No. So you do have to put a 0 there. And then you drop down another 0. Well, does 4 go into 0 yet? No. And you have to drop down another 0. Does 4 go into 0 again? No. And you can put another 0 if you want, but after a decimal place, it doesn't matter. So 20 divided by 4/100 is 500. Now example 2, divide. 3.6 divided by negative 0.9. So I'm going to write this under the bracket. So we have 3.6 divided by negative 0.9. Again, there's a decimal on the outside, so I have to move the decimal place on the divisor. I moved it 1 place, so I have to move it once over here, then it goes straight up. That's where it goes. So I basically have 36 divided by negative 9. Positive divided by a negative is a negative, and 9 goes into 36 4 times. Now on to part B. 2.5 divided by 0.1. Again, I like rewriting it like this. So 2.5 goes on the inside, 0.1 on the outside. I have to move it once, and it goes straight up. Then anything divided by 1 is just itself, so 25 divided by 1 is 25. And that's the answer to 2.5 divided by 1/10. Now on to example 3. Divide 453 hundred-thousandths by 98 hundredths. Round the quotient to the nearest thousandths. Now when you are dividing and you are told to round your answer, you always carry out the division to 1 more decimal place than you need. So since I'm going to thousandths, I need to carry out 200 thousandths. But first I'm going to write it. 0.0453 divided by 0.98. I have to move it 2 to make it a whole number, which means I also have to move it 2 over here. 1, 2. Now if you notice, I have tenths, hundredths. Since I'm rounding to the thousandths, as I said before, we have to carry it all the way out to hundredths, thousandths, and then I can stop. So I'm just going to put 2 zeros there right away, so I know I stop there. Now, 98 doesn't go into 0, doesn't go into 2 zeros, doesn't go into 4, doesn't go into 45. So after the decimal point, you have to start putting leading zeros. So since 98 does not go into 45, I have to put a 0 there. Now, 453. How many times does 98 go into there? This is how I look at it. 98 is very close to 100. So how many times would 100 go into 453? 4 times. So I'm going to try out 4. Well, 4 times 8, 32. Carry the 3. 4 times 9 is 36. Plus 3 is 39. And then we subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1. I can't take 9 away from 5, so I have to borrow. 15 minus 9 is 6. 3 minus 3 is 0. And a quick check, is what I have left over less than my divisor? 61 is less than 98, so I know I chose the correct number. And then you drop the next digit. I'm going to use the same trick. 98 is close to 100, so how many times does 100 go into 610? Well, I'm going to guess 6 times. 6 times 8 is 48. 6 times 9 is 54, plus 4 is 58. I have to borrow. 10 minus 8 is 2. I have to borrow again. 10 minus 8 is 2. 5 minus 5 is 0. And again, I have to drop down 0. How many times does 98 go into 220? I'm going to guess by rounding 2. Just to make sure I guess the right number, I am going to go through the subtraction, even though that's the last digit I need. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 2 times 9 is 18, plus 1 is 19. I have to borrow 4. I was running into my other problem. Borrow again. 2, 0, 24. 24 is less than 98. So now that's my answer. And I have to round to the thousandths place. So I'm going to underline the thousandths, look to the right, it's less than 5, so it's going to stay the same, 0.046, and you drop all decimal places after it. So 0.0453 divided by 0.98 is approximately 46 thousandths. Example 4 is an evaluate problem. Evaluate x divided by y if x equals 0.45 and y equals 5. Again, I'm going to take 0.45 divided by 5. Now, this is where a lot of students make mistakes. They assume since there's a decimal here, I have to move the decimal. The rule states, though, you only move the decimal place is if your divisor has a decimal. My divisor does not have a decimal in it, so I don't have to move my decimal at all. So I'm just going to bring it up. I'm going to put a 0 in front of it. 5 doesn't go into 0. 5 does not go into 4. And 5 goes into 45 9 times. 9 times 5 is 45. Subtract a remainder of 0. So your final answer for 45 hundredths divided by 5 is 9 hundredths. And that's it for this section. I hope you found it useful.